Welcome to King County Levy Court. We just came from our workshop that was scheduled for 6:30. We'll now go into our special business meeting that was advertised, and I'd like to have the acting county administrator explain how those that would like to join us by phone and our WebEx can do so. Sir?
Thank you, Mr. President. The meeting is being held in person at 555 Bay Road, Dover, Delaware, and Levy Court Chambers. We also are making it available via the internet through the WebEx. Participants can join us by phone or by computer during the meeting. There will be opportunities for public comments for those attending in person or online. When the president opens public comment period, those attending in person may step forward to one of the two podiums and be recognized. If you're joining us by phone and wish to comment, please press *3, which will raise your electronic hand. Our operator will identify you and bring you into the meeting. Press *6 will mute or unmute the line. If you're online, you will see a hand and a microphone icon at the bottom of your screen. Please use those at appropriate times. We ask guests to begin public comments by stating your name and address. For the record, the county attorney will administer an oath or affirmation to anyone giving testimony during the public hearing. We ask that the public comments relate to the subject announced by the president. In addition to public hearings, there will be 2 public comment periods, one at the beginning of the meeting for agenda items and one near the end of the meeting for general comments. This meeting is being recorded and will follow the rules of procedures adopted by Levy Court, as well as the Mason's Rules of Order. Back to you, Mr. President.
Thank you. At this time, we'll call the special business meeting to order. I ask Commissioner Maston to lead us in the invocation, Commissioner Hall to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and Commissioner Sweeney to lead us in a moment of silence for our troops and first responders. All rise, please.
Lord, we pray for unity amongst us, that we may work together harmoniously for the common good. Let divisive agendas be set aside in favor of cooperation and collaboration. Amen.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence for our military, law enforcement, firefighters, paramedics, and other first responders who have given their lives in the line of duty. Please remember these individual first responders who have died this past couple weeks, as well as keeping their families in your thoughts and prayers as they deal with the loss of their loved ones. Deputy Sheriff Kaylee Campbell from Oswego County Sheriff's Office in New York. Trooper Kevin Ramirez Vasquez from the Texas Highway Patrol. Deputy Constable Robin Garcia from the Cameron County Constable's Office, Texas. Fire Engineer Timothy Hall from the West Sacramento Fire Department in California, and Assistant Chief Leon Davis from the Blackshear Fire Department in Georgia. Also, please, after the recent Hurricane Helene that tore through our country, please keep all those who lost their lives and lost loved ones, lost all their belongings in your thoughts and prayers this week. And keep our first responders who have left King County to go to those areas hit hardest to assist fire companies from those areas in restoring their lives. Thank you.
Thank you, as always, Commissioner Sweeney, for compiling that information for us. Can we have roll call, please?
Mr. Angel?
Present.
Mr. Hall?
Here.
Mr. Hertz?
Here.
Mrs. Maston?
Present.
Mr. Scott?
Here.
Mr. Sweeney?
Here.
Mr. Pepper?
Here.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 7 present.
Thank you. We do have 7 commissioners present. We do have a quorum. Prior to taking a motion on adoption of this evening's agenda, I need to add Resolution 4079. We'll add that last under new business. And also a motion for executive session. We'll add that at the end where we normally post it.
Move to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion to approve and seconded. Can we have roll call again, please?
Mr. President,
Mr. Hall?
I had a question on that motion.
Sure.
Okay, so just now seeing Resolution 4079, is this indication that we're going to follow Title IX, Chapter 41, Section 4108 so this would be a preliminary notification followed by an opportunity to respond with the final resolution?
I'll let the county attorney address you on that.
There's likely to be a public hearing later, after which a follow-up resolution would be in order.
Okay, because I was going to ask that the agenda be amended under Chapter 242 of Mason's Rules for an old business issue to reconsider the public vote that we took last week, because I'm concerned that we need to conform with the law. And then I see this, and I just need some assurance that we're going to follow state law.
Of course.
All right, very well. That's my question.
So I'll ask council, should we proceed as we're planned here this evening?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So can we roll call, please?
Mr. Angel?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Hertz?
Yes.
Mrs. Maston?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Pepper?
Yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 7 yeas.
Thank you. This evening's, excuse me, this evening's agenda has been adopted as amended. And at this time on the agenda, we allow for public comments for any item that may not be covered under a and I see we don't have anything. Anything that may not be covered under a public hearing. So at this time, we allow that. If anyone would like to mention or talk about anything that's on the agenda this evening, now's the time. Mark, do we have anyone online?
If there's anyone joining us online that would like to make public comments at this time, please indicate by raising your electronic hand. I see no hands raised, Mr. President.
Thank you. Thank you. Moving on to new business. First item on the agenda is appointment of an attorney. This attorney would represent us in the proceeding that we started last week in the addressing the former county administrator and his contract. This attorney is Mr. Michael P. Stafford. He's from Young, Conway, Stargett, and Taylor. They are professionals in this area, and so we do need to hire someone to represent us in that matter.
A motion?
So,
Move to approve Michael Stafford for our personnel attorney.
Second.
Get to ask questions first?
well, now that the motion's been made, you can ask questions, yes.
Okay. My question is, I understand he's hired to handle the Ken Decker situation. Is he also the one that we're going to use to verify what's the 4108, what the county administrator's responsibilities are and what he can and cannot do before we hire a new county administrator? Is this the guy?
I'll ask the county attorney to answer that for you while I'll take another drink of water.
I think he would be a good person to help us define the roles and to what extent those roles have been impacted by the passage of 4108 by the General Assembly. But I don't think we've asked him to do that just now, just at this point.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, is this the guy, or are we going to have to search out yet another attorney to clarify the 4108?
Oh, I don't think so. He's well aware of the statute and the potential impact that it has on the division of labor and so on and so forth. So I think he would be a good person to do that.
Thank you.
Mr. Scott.
That was my question, Mr. President. I sent the email last week, and I think it'd probably be all summed up into this before it's over with.
Yeah, great. Okay, we got a motion to approve and seconded. Any other questions before we take a roll call? If not, Mr. Naka, can we have roll call, please?
Mr. Angel?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Hertz?
Yes.
Mrs. Maston?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Pepper?
Yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 7 yeas.
Thank you. And Commissioner Maston, this falls under Commissioner Maston, the next one. However, we've, after a long search, for quite some time now, we've been trying to find someone to represent us before the Regional Planning Commission, an attorney, and we have one, Ms. Erica Sefton, and she is willing to be the Regional Planning Commission attorney, and she is well versed and can do the job. So, Mr. Masson, turn over to you for a motion, unless you'd like to say anything else.
No, I'd like to make a motion that we hire Erica Sefton as our Regional Planning Commission attorney, and I believe she's on the line tonight, so after the motion's made, if anyone has any questions, I'm sure she'll be happy to answer.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions on the motion? Seeing none, can we have roll call, please?
Mr. Angel?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Hertz?
Yes.
Mrs. Maston?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Pepper?
Yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 7 yeas.
Thank you. Commissioner Maston, would you like to introduce?
Erica, welcome to the Levy Court family, and do you have anything you would like to address with us? Feel free to do so.
I don't have any specific comments other than thanks very much. I'm looking forward to working with you all, and yeah, happy to be part of the team.
Thank you. Any commissioners have any questions for Erica?
Nope, just welcome aboard.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And the next item on the agenda under new business continued is also under Commissioner Scott. You have 2 items there.
Thank you, Mr. President. The first item is in reference to wireless communications at the 911 center, and I would like to make a motion to approve the removal and reinstallation of radio components. I move to approve wireless communications electronics as the vendor for removal and reinstallation of 18 existing Motorola MCC 7500 consoles and paraphels at a cost of $33,208.98, and the funding source for this is transfer tax.
Second motion.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second by Commissioner Scott, Commissioner Angel. Anybody have any questions before we move on? If not, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Angel?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Hertz?
Yes.
Mrs. Maston?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Pepper?
Yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 7 yeas.
Thank you. Roll call reveals the motion passed. Next item, Commissioner Scott.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to approve the Masson's Electric and change order for up to $14,000. And again, the funding for this project also was money from transfer tax that's been saved up for several years.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Commissioner Scott, second by Commissioner Maston. Any questions on the motion? If not, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Angel?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Hertz?
Yes.
Mrs. Maston?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Pepper?
Yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 7 yeas.
Thank you. Roll call reveals the motion passed. Commissioner Angel. We took a vote on both of those, correct? Yeah. Commissioner Angel or Commissioner Sweeney? Did you have any questions on the one you missed? No. Okay. 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 Next item is Resolution 4079 that we added to the agenda at the beginning. So, Ms. Tanaka, can we have you read the preliminary resolution 4079?
Whereas Kenneth Decker and Kent County entered into a contract dated February 28, 2023 for his employment as county administrator, and whereas under Section 9A of his contract, Mr. Decker's employment may be terminated for any reason or reason deemed sufficient by the county in its sole discretion or for no stated reason. And whereas the county previously provided Mr. Decker with notice under Section 8A of its intent to terminate his employment contract. Now therefore, the county hereby moves to terminate Mr. Decker's employment for no stated reason in accordance with the terms of his employment contract.
Okay, that is a resolution 4079. It does take a vote.
Move to approve preliminary resolution 4079, Mr. President.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Commissioner Angel, second by Commissioner Maston. Any questions on the motion? If not, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Angel?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
No.
Mr. Hertz?
No.
Mrs. Maston?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Pepper?
Yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 5 yeas, 2 nays.
Thank you. Roll call reveals resolution 4079 has been approved by Levy Court. We have, at this time, we have public comments listed on the agenda, and I think we have to go back into our workshop, and I think the most expedient thing to do is do the public comments now and commissioner comments, and adjourn back to our workshop. But we'll also need to have an executive session this evening. So we'll do the workshop, and after the workshop, we'll do the executive session. That way we won't be holding up anybody that's here to discuss anything on the workshop agenda.
Mr. President,
Commissioner Sweeney.
before we go into public comments and we're still in new business, do we have to do the move to go into executive session immediately after tonight's meeting? during?
Well, yeah, we're going to do that.
Okay.
And, okay, so we'll do public comments, commissioner comments, and we'll also have Commissioner Angel make the motion to go into executive session after the business meeting and after the workshop that we started prior to the business meeting. And like I said, that way anybody that's here to give information on the workshop items can do so and not be held up by us. At this time, any public comments? Seeing none, Mark, do we have any online?
If there's anyone joining us online that would like to make public comments, please raise your electronic hand at this time. See no hands raised, Mr. President.
Thank you. Any commissioner comments? Commissioner Maston.
Yeah, just one quick question. I know we had talked about having a town hall meeting concerning the reassessment, and I know that a few dates have been thrown out, but I guess my question is, in order for that meeting to be successful, have we determined whether or not Tyler's going to participate in that meeting? Do we have a commitment from them yet?
I don't know. Lauren?
I haven't reached out to them yet. I was waiting until we confirmed a date.
Okay, thank you.
The other question I have, Mr. President, is where's the legislator stand with this? I mean, if we're calling these meetings in reference to it.
I've reached out to every legislator, and every legislator except for Senator Buxton has responded back. I think he's the only one after today.
So they've given you something in
Every
writing?
one of them
that
said
has
they are
that-
open on the 21st. Bill Carson asked for it to be during the day, but his aide told him no because farmers work during the day. So we really need to have it at night so farmers can attend. Yeah, Representative Carson was okay with that.
Yeah, I just think it's vital since it's going to come down to the
Oh, yeah.
legislators over top of us.
Yeah, I've reached out to all of our Kent County levy court. As soon as we set the date, I'm going to flash it out to the other state legislators in the other two counties because this is coming their way, as well as the county councils in those two counties, because it's coming their way and they need to know it.
Any other questions? Any other commissioner comments? Okay, Commissioner Angel, we'll get you to make the motion for the executive session.
Mr. President, after our workshop, we go into I make a motion that we go back into executive session for personnel issue. Thank you. For preliminary discussion or site acquisition for a publicly funded capital improvement legal strategy assessment regarding collective bargaining or pending or potential litigation in personal matters pursuant to 29 Del Code 10004 B2, 4, and 9.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions? If not, can we have roll call, please?
Mr. Angel?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Hertz?
Yes.
Mrs. Maston?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Pepper?
Yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 7 yeas.
Thank you. We will be adjourning back to the workshop, and immediately following the workshop, we will be going into executive session. And after the executive session, that will conclude our evening, and we will not be coming back to the chambers here. So at this time, let me ask Mark, are you set up in here to do the PowerPoint that we were watching back in the other room or not?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we can continue from here and instead of going back to the other room, and there's plenty of seating in here for people that.
That's correct.
So we can just continue on right here.
Yes, sir.
All right, good. So we'll continue our workshop right from this location. So getting back to our workshop, Mark, are you set up? And so I'll ask the folks from the Conservation District to come on down and we'll continue the workshop that we were talking about before we came into the business meeting. I need to apologize for my voice this evening. I've been working outside the whole day near pine trees, and I'm allergic to pine trees, I understand, so it's working on my voice this afternoon or this evening, so thank you for bearing with me.
While Mark's getting that set up, I have a question for Mr. Atkins.
Yes.
So, or maybe Susan, or maybe even the attorney can answer this. If we chose to bring this back to a business meeting next week and vote to increase the fees, can we start charging new ponds that come in the new fees, even though the bills just went out with the old fees?
So I'll let Susan answer the billing questions.
Any ponds or any stormwater districts that we bring in now, we refer to that the rate will be set in the levy court budget in the spring of '25. And so anything brought in now, we don't bill again until next year, and they get double billed, or they get a year and a half billed to catch up. So it would be at the new rate if, for half of the year, like if they came in right now, they get billed a half a year at this rate you have now, and then next year would be at the new rate.
Okay. All right, so then my question, I know you went over this a little bit. In order to be able to justify this to constituents, from my point of view, I need to be able to tell them, here's the value they're getting for the extra $15 a year fee. So in you and Sean's opinions, what are those values that they're getting for the extra $15? Things that you didn't expect 15 years ago that you're now doing, that KCD is now doing, that is, and I think we touched on some of these things, so.
Well, early on, we had a number of public workshops before the ordinance was kicked off. Between Sean and I, we've attended 60 or 70, homeowner association meetings. And what I tell folks is this is as much a financial program as anything. If they would prefer to take that $28 or $39 a month and put it in the bank themselves and bank that money, then they would have their own funds to be able to do those capital improvements 20 or 25 years from now. But what we consistently heard during these public hearings when this started is that the homeowner associations are really struggling to collect those HOA dues. And they're struggling to collect enough money to cut the grass and to do the simple stuff. They have a hard time keeping funds in reserve because the comment comes up, if we have all this money in the bank, why do we need to keep paying HOA fees? So that's part of it, is like I said, if a community has a financial wherewithal to do their own financing, then they do not need us. But we've found that most HOAs just don't have that type of financial backing to be able to put this money in the bank and bank it themselves. So essentially, we're taking money from the 136 communities, we're pulling it together so that we can, one, be more efficient with it, and then two, we have a pot of money to be able to take care of these kind of one at a time as they come up.
Right, so, I get that.
Right.
So during the whole reassessment and even during tax increases, when people said, wait a minute, I'm not getting any new services for that tax increase, and I was able to go back and say, well, yes, you are, because these are the increases that we've seen at the county level since the last time we increased taxes in 2010. Here's why we had to increase this year, because all of these things have gone up. And I want to be able to do the same thing with the stormwater ponds. I can't just say, well, it's a good program. We all know it's a great program.
Right. Every
Every time we vote on one of us up here says this is one of the best things we've ever done. But that doesn't help the person out there who's now having to pay an extra $15 a year And they're thinking, you raised my taxes, you raised my school taxes, you put a library tax on me, now you're raising the sewer went up. So they're just looking at this as another straw on the camel's back. What can we tell them the value they're getting for the increase? Other than your management, because they're gonna, that's kind of wispy at best.
Right. So the value that they're getting, or kind of the counterpoint, is this is the first time the fees have been contemplated to be raised since the program kicked off. So, this is not something where we're raising fees every year. This isn't something where we're looking at huge increases. This is really an adjustment for just the cost of everything going up over the last 10 years. And $15, although that is a huge percent increase, $15 for being relieved of the burden of having to worry about these stormwater ponds at all is certainly value for the money in my perspective. Not everybody sees it that way, and that's why this is a voluntary program. If they see the value in it, we can certainly provide those services for them. If, again, they would rather do their own maintenance, then they certainly have that opportunity. I don't know that answered your question head on, but in terms of justifying the program and the services they get, like I said, we do all the heavy lifting, like I said, everything beyond mowing the grass and picking up the trash.
Right, yeah. So one of the things that you mentioned during the discussion in the other room, in the caucus room, was that, 16 years ago, you didn't expect to be fixing sinkholes.
Right.
Now you're fixing sinkholes still on the same amount of money that you've been collecting all along. So that's something that I can go to them and say, hey, we're having to fix sinkholes now too in people's backyards. That adds to the cost that we didn't originally ask for you guys to cover. So what other items like that are there other than sinkholes?
Well, the other part of that is that we've taken over any drainage issues that would normally be the responsibility of a homeowners association. So if there are backyard swales or other features that need to be regraded, we do that as well. Most of those issues have been very minor, shovel and rake type of work. It's the sinkholes that were the big unexpected expense that have popped up. And that's really the kind of driving some of that cost is the sinkholes. The other services that we provide, like I said, for backyard drainage are relatively minor, although if we didn't take care of them, they would fall back to either the individual homeowners or that homeowners association.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Jared? Mr. Scott?
Jared, just so I'm simplifying this for myself. So the fee that you charge has been that way for 16 years?
For 10 years. For 10 years. The ordinance was adopted in 2014.
Okay, so it's been the same fee for 10 years?
It has been, yes.
But your labor prices have not stayed the same. Your supply cost has not stayed the same. And they always have the option to take and maintain it themselves, correct?
Correct.
So it's a service that you're providing for a small nominal fee per year on their taxes.
Right.
Thank
so
you.
It's everything has gone up across the board. Certainly labor costs have gone up. We've had to increase salaries to remain competitive, just like the county and everybody else. Pipe has gone up tremendously. Coming through COVID, it used to be that the plastic pipe was cheaper than concrete. During COVID, that flip-flopped and has flip-flopped a couple of times. So just the price of pipe, price of concrete structures, everything has increased across the board.
And that was the reason for some of the developments and to not want to maintain it themselves, correct?
Correct. The other challenge is simply finding qualified contractors that can do some of this work. It's not like you can just flip open an old-fashioned Yellow Pages and look for pond contractors. We have the advantage through the stormwater side. We work with every contractor that does work in Kent County. and we know who does good work, who can do this type of work, and we can reach out to them and, like I said, find economical bids to get some of the work done.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? Any other questions? Okay, and you're satisfied with the number you quoted us in the other room earlier as what it needs to go up to?
I am. I mean, with coming up with any sort of budget, there's certain assumptions that are made, and I think we've made the best assumptions we can based on the information we've got. So yes, I'm comfortable with that number, as comfortable as I can be.
Okay. Then we'll look at introducing a fee increase for the drainage program, and I probably look at doing that next week during the business meeting. Okay. All right. Thanks a lot.
Very good. Thank you for your time today.
Appreciate both of you being here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, parks closure procedure implementation. Mr. Shepherd is here this evening.
Evening, Commission and staff. So in your packet for tonight's workshop, there's a memo where I kind of outline some of the problems that we've had over the years with the events happening at our parks that are less unsavory, I guess is the best way to describe it. Under the former county administrator, we had discussions about how to best attack the problem from our standpoint with our limited resources. And the discussion always kind of centered on, you know, what does Levy Court want to do in this particular situation? And in the memo, I do outline a piece of county code that in the past, county staff, including myself, have used in order to basically close a park or close an area for reasons that we seem, you know, to feel are within our rights as, you know, stewards of public property. So for public safety reasons is mostly the reason why we do it. Certainly if we have an event that we need to set up for, things like that, we can close areas also too. So I would welcome, you know, any thoughts from our county attorney on the validity of that statement, because it's just been a way that we've operated since, at least since I've been here in 2001. But moving that forward, whenever we decide if that's really within our capabilities and authority level at the director level, I think what we want to try to decide here tonight is how are other ways to kind of deal with these situations that we're having with these large parties. You know, to bring up an example recently of what we had 2 weeks ago, where there was a very large gathering at Brecknock Park. Thankfully, the police, you know, were able to break that one up. But then just a week ago, we had notification from Dover PD that something else was kind of in the air. And they didn't know for sure, but they knew that something was probably going to happen in the Dover area. We reached out to Camden PD at the time. They really came through and dedicated an officer to kind of hang around Brecknock for the day. You know, I think that really helped. In addition, we also did close Tidbury Park for the day. It was really only intended for the day. Unfortunately, with a miscommunication with staff, it ended up being for the entire weekend. So apologize about that. But that was all kind of done with, you know, assist by the county administrator at the time and with notification at a leadership meeting. So there was a little bit of a chain of command procedure at that point that really maybe solidified, you know, a potential new procedure. I think whenever I have closed a park in the past, I've always notified my immediate supervisor, which is the county administrator, and then left it up to that person to notify Levy Court. But I'm certainly willing to do, whatever Levy Court wants to do in this particular situation. So, other than that, some things to think about maybe for the future is maybe how to build better partnerships with Camden PD, with, Delaware State Police. We've certainly had a share of incidences at Tidbury Park, which isn't monitored by Camden, or Dover, it's monitored by DSP. So any additional assistance and understanding, between, what's happening and what kind of operation that they could help out with would be well received by staff. Also trying to get, additional buy-in from DSU. I have had a meeting with them last spring. I thought that we had, a good connection as far as communication level. Unfortunately, we didn't receive any communication here recently. But I think we need to continue to work and talk with them and maybe even find ways to, get advance notice of things that are happening, that might manifest themselves in the park. And then finally, I just want to talk about, we do have a section in the code that talks about fining individuals who break the park rules. And we've never done it. Not that I've ever known that we've ever done it, and we don't really have a procedure for it to actually work out through the court system or what have you. So I think that maybe we can take a look at that as, having some sort of consequence financially for individuals who are, proven to have either started or created these types of messes in our parks. So those are the things I just wanted to bring to your attention. I think the most immediate thing is, what kind of procedure would you expect for staff to follow so that you guys are well notified or on board with the potential closure of a park due to whatever the reason it may be? Questions?
Mr. Scott.
Yeah, for myself, Jeremy, I think the policy you have in play right now works appropriately fine. I mean, you're the director. You make that determination. If you feel it needs to be shut down, you shut it down. Go through your same chain of command that you did before, which is your immediate supervisor is the county administrator or the acting county administrator. If they deem it necessary for Levy Court to be aware of, which they generally do, they'll notify us. I think that you're perfectly capable of making that decision in a positive way.
Thank you.
So, Jeremy, I think that we need to reach out to Mr. Overton tomorrow and make sure, because homecoming Saturday at Dell State. So we might as well make plans to close Tidbury now and possibly ask Chief Whitney to have someone posted at the entrance to Brecknock during Thursday or Friday night when we know those parties are going to hit, or Saturday during the day. I really don't like closing the parks because I get a lot of phone calls from people who said, hey, why are the parks closed? I was going there to walk the dog or let the dog run in the dog park, and now I can't do that. So, but I try to make them understand why we're doing it. It's to prevent, further issues. And I've been successful with the few that I've gotten. And that's due to you guys taking the action that you do. But any communication we can get out there up front, as soon as we know, or as soon as we make a plan to close Tidbury Park and to post security at the gate at Brecknock, we need to get it out on social media, out through Ms. Pitts or Ms. Gutierrez to get that information out to the public.
Can do.
Anybody else? Anybody else?
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy. Appreciate it. Next item, Tyler, Human Capital Management, scope.
Good evening, Commissioners. This is more an informative topic of discussion. The Tyler Human Capital Management D-Scope. After recent challenges with the tax and utility billing implementation for Munis, we decided that we should check out the human capital management software and everything it has to offer. I did take I went down and visited Sussex County for a day and looked at the human capital management software there, along with their time and attendance software. And Sussex County has recently decided to move away from their HCM portion of the Munis software to try to find a different type of HRIS system. I've had similar discussions with Delaware River Bay Authority. They are actually in the process of confirming for the secretary that they need to move away from HCM as well. They are not happy with the payroll functions or the software as a HRS, Human Resource Information System. Bryant has also reached out to Newcastle County, and we're hearing kind of the same issues there. The reporting is not, it doesn't do what it needs to do for reporting. Benefits tracking is not very well. Recruitment and tracking, things of that nature, the system just, it's not compatible for the needs of what HR is requesting. So we are proposing to de-scope HCM from the entire contract and move forward with looking at different HRIS systems. We've currently had a demo with UKG. We have one slotted for NeoGov, which is a large organization in the public sector that handles payroll. We also have a few other, I think Edwards, and a few other that we're looking at as well. So that's the plan, we're hoping. But I did want to talk about the reduction in cost. So this amendment, it would be a total reduction of $126,740 to remove it from the actual scope of the contract. And we also anticipate that it'll be about a $31,000 savings in the SaaS fees. Now, Susan has asked that in the amendment that you have before you, it doesn't include the reduction in the SaaS fees. So she has asked that that be included in the amendment before we bring it back to you for approval. Susan or Bryant, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Where are we on that contract now? Where are we?
With HCM or with Munis as a whole?
Yeah, HCM.
We have not started implementation. We haven't started anything yet. So this would be the perfect time to de-scope because we haven't started any of the project. Yeah, okay. So Susan can answer those questions.
Susan, I can't see you. What did you say, please?
I was saying that when we first got the contract with Tyler, it was a 3-year contract, and in that had HCM, what they call the SaaS fees, software as a service. And there was, what we're de-scoping now is the all the implementation fees and things of that nature. And then we also are removing that portion of the SaaS fees that cover HCM from the contract. So other than that, Brian, is the contract done then? Once, or?
No, we're still on hold
with the tax.
And we're still paying SaaS fees on it.
Right. And we probably should de-scope that if I had a vote, but anyway.
Brian, can you come to the microphone so we can hear you? I can see you, but I can't hear you.
Okay. So, yeah, Susan mentioned, the contract, unfortunately had us paying for SaaS fees 4 modules that we hadn't implemented from day one. So as we've gone along and looked at different parts of the Tyler contract that we didn't need, we also started removing SaaS fee payments. So before we get too much further, I think the next invoice we're supposed to be getting today, we haven't gotten yet, thankfully, but the next invoice we're supposed to be getting today would include the HCM fees, and then we would come back and say, okay, well, we're going to descope that, so we need to get a credit for this particular invoice. Unfortunately, we can't go back to the previous quarter or the quarter before that and get those fees paid back to us, but at least from this point forward, we'll be saving money is our intention with descoping HCM.
Any other questions for Commissioner Scott?
Trudy, am I reading this right? We'd be saving somewhere around 126,000 over the course?
We would from this contract, but we are still looking for another HRS system, so there will be another expense coming.
Sure, I understand that.
Okay.
And then my next question would be, the new system would not need to be tied to Munis, which everybody seems to be going away from to start with.
Well, that's not 100% accurate. Finance is keeping Munis as the backbone. So the software that we're looking at has very high compatibility rates with Munis. That's the angle we're looking at it from now. What can we look at that will integrate well with Munis, that will give HR everything it needs in a HRIS?
Okay, I thought I must have misunderstood, and I thought you said that Sussex and then we're going away, taking it away from Munis.
They are moving away from HCM to be their HRIS, but they are keeping Munis as well as their financial system.
So then I guess my question would be, this new program, is it going to interact better with Munis than what we are existingly looking at?
I don't know that it would work better as far as HCM being a part of Tyler, but for the needs that we need in HR, it would be compatible for what we need the system to do. Okay. As far as payroll and all of that, I think we would be able to find any system that would integrate, but for what we need for analytics, tracking, reporting, benefits, we need something different.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Commissioner Hertz?
Yeah, I just want to make sure I understand this. So we're taking $30,742 off SAS. If it's billed today, you'll refund that $30,742, correct?
Right, that's a full year's cost. It's actually a quarter of that we're going to get billed for this upcoming quarter.
But you also said this hasn't been implemented yet, but we've been paying and we can't go back to the previous quarters. Right. So how many quarters have we paid and how much money have we given you guys? And we've got zero for our money. How much money have we thrown away, basically?
I don't know. I'd have to go. Do you have any idea, Susan?
Yeah. Well, how many quarters have you been charging us? I mean.
Yeah, I'm not Tyler.
So we've been spending this money and getting absolutely nothing for it for multiple quarters, and we're not going to get none of that money back. So we basically I could have taken the money and just burned it in a fire pit.
Well,
Stranger.
I'm having a hard time with this too, because from the get-go, former commissioner and I were trying to get another company here, but Tyler for Munis was north and south of us, and we went with them because of north and south. And this is supposed to be the best thing since apple pie. So what happened? Where did things start going wrong? Why can't we fix things and get them to go together and mesh together? Because it seems like something's not working somewhere. And it's going to cost us now, as Mr. Hertz said, but at the same time, we still have to find something to replace it if we're going to change. That's going to cost more money. So I don't want to go through this again, I guess is the best way to say this. How do we know we're getting what we asked for?
The best thing that we can do right now is more due diligence upfront rather than just accepting that because everyone else is doing Tyler or that Tyler represents an upgrade to the county. The best thing we can do is just do our due diligence, put the requirements out there, have the bidders, vendors sign up for those requirements, and bring it back in front of the commissioners. Right. Munis.
But necessarily, every module in Munis doesn't work for everybody.
Right, and so, without getting into a third-hand story, too much so, because I was not here for those decisions, but we went ahead, we implemented the core Munis financials function, and it's working for us. There are things that we're not using that we will get to use with what we have today. But we had not seen, as a county, we had not seen what their tax billing looks like, or what their utility billing looked like, or what their HCM looked like, really. We didn't get a demo of it before we signed that contract. So we really didn't know what we were getting into. That's a third-hand story, and am I saying that correctly? Yeah, so the boss back there says I said it right. So that is my understanding of how we got to where we are today.
I kind of feel as if we had this discussion in the beginning, and we were also told things could be tweaked if they needed to be tweaked, if I remember correctly, before we even signed the contract. So why weren't these asked before we signed the contract? I guess is the best way to say this, because we don't know your business, but you're supposed to know ours, and evidently you don't. So I guess that's the only way I can say it.
Okay.
There's a little bit of confusion on how this played out. Bryant represents CAI. They were not on board at the time the contract was signed by the levy court. It was under previous administration, and the goal was to have one vendor instead of several software products. And idealistically, if that had worked and provided our needs, that's what we would have done. And that's what other people have tried, Sussex County, City of Dover, Town of Smyrna. And what they're finding out is that Tyler has outgrown themselves, and they're not able to give us what they said they could. So it's just one of those things that unfortunately in many areas are having the same issues. Would you agree to that? Yes. So it's not, we can't undo the past. We've just got to move forward. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Commissioner Scott.
Trudy, unless I'm overlooking it, what's the cost for this? I see reductions and savings, but I don't see a cost. Unless I'm missing a sheet.
Bryant, is the total cost the 127?
Sorry, Commissioner, are you referring to the cost of new software?
That's correct.
Yeah, we do not know what the cost of the new software is. We have to do our due diligence, select the vendor for HCM, and then bring that back as a separate contract.
Yeah, I completely respect your position on it, but it's kind of hard. It really is hard for me to have a discussion on something when I have no idea what the cost is going to be.
We could, and this is why we brought it up at a workshop, we could wait to execute the D-scope until we got quotes from vendors in, if that's what Levy Court would prefer us to do.
Well, you're going to pay the SAS anyhow. You said the bill is going to be coming in, so you're going to pay that anyway.
Well,
how often does that? You're not going to have to pay that, Susan?
No, we could stop right now on the SAS.
Are you using the program that you're paying for now or not?
Are you speaking about HCM? We are not using that at all.
You're not using it at all. So
No.
you can de-scope that, keep using what you have, and then when you get prices, you can come back to us.
Yes, and that's the plan, I believe.
That's what
Did
we
you
would
catch
like
that,
to
Mr.
do.
President?
So it was never implemented, but we've been paying for it.
Because it was part of a entire contract, right, Susan, the SaaS fees?
When you get products like this, you're buying the whole software. You sign on for the components, and as soon as you do that, upon the initial signing of the contract, that software becomes yours to use. And so they start billing you for it. And that's standard in the industry. So, and so that's what we were doing. And then there was this implementation plan, and so we were just paying for that. And that's just.
So we paid for it, we never implemented it, and now tonight, we're not gonna implement it ever. And so we paid, how much did we pay to never use this program? I mean.
What did you say for year 30?
Yeah, 30, but it was less before.
Yeah, they bumped up the price. I would guess that we've paid $45,000-$50,000.
So we paid $45,000-$50,000 and didn't get one thing.
Well, we got into it enough to know we couldn't use it, but.
So we had to pay that much to find out that we couldn't use it?
Well, it's just more, I just can't explain it all without.
It's normal practice. It's normal practice in the industry for this to happen. And let me give you the worst example that I've ever been experienced with. State of Delaware went to implement SAP for their system, rented a building in Newcastle, hired 600 people, dumped $60 million into it, and then dropped it and went with PeopleSoft. We don't like it. We don't like what they, we don't like the outcome of this. But at this point, we got to cut bait and move away from it and let Trudy start looking at other products that will better serve the county moving forward.
And Commissioner Hertz, Commissioner Sweeney is right. I lived this nightmare. We had a $75 million contract with SAP for Hercules worldwide. The total implementation was $245 million, and it was no better on day 99 than it was on day 1. It's just the way it works. You buy it, it looks good, you try to implement it. Whole different scenario.
Mr. President, can I make a recommendation? Trudy, are there other programs out there that you would like to entertain looking at before we just jump with one?
We are. We're doing our due diligence now. We are taking the time.
Yeah, because I mean, I might only have 2 years left, but I don't want to be sitting here next year having this conversation.
Neither do we. Neither do we.
Bobby, she listed them a few minutes ago, all the ones that she's looking at.
Good.
So already moving forward in that direction.
Yes,
right.
we are taking our time and finding the right software that's going to do everything. We know it won't do everything we want, but if we can get most of everything, we'll be happy with that.
All right, thank you.
I mean, we wasted a whole year on tax billing, a whole year. I can't even tell you how many training hours to find out they couldn't do what we needed because of the way, and they knew in the beginning that we had to tax all these different entities, because we have to collect school, we have to collect so many things, and they kept saying they could do it, and then they just couldn't.
Well, can't we hold them responsible then? If they were telling us all along and dragging us along and saying they could do it, they could do it, they could do it, and then they didn't, I mean, there's got to be some recourse to go back on them. They didn't provide what they said they could.
And that's a catch-22 also, because they're going to say that we just need to change our ways. And the problem is there's just certain things we can't change. We're obligated to the state. There's just things out there that due diligence would have done it, but we failed in the beginning. I'm not going to say who failed, but it was failed, the process in the beginning.
And this was Tyler, correct?
Yes.
Also.
And I think it was sold as like an upgrade, right, Susan? Like
Yes.
That was the basis of us
And it was so
moving
much
forward.
more than that.
Right.
It was so much more.
Okay, so Trudy, what's your next step here? This is informational tonight. What's your next step that you foresee?
So we have NeoGov lined up for a demo in a couple of weeks. We're going to try to get a demo with Edwards. We're looking at a few other softwares, and then we want to hopefully decide which one we want to move with, possibly do a piggyback. contract if possible to move this along. But we're still in the vetting process to see which software is going to be the best and most compatible with Munis so that we can move forward. So we would come before you, I would say maybe November with a price, hopefully. But we do think it's best, all of us, to de-scope
Yes.
HCM
so that
and not pay
you need to
anymore.
move that forward to a next business meeting,
Yes,
if you want.
if you're okay with that.
Commissioners, in favor of moving forward to the next business meeting to de-scope and come back a little bit later on in November with prices. Looks like we have 7 up.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, credit and exemption data on Pride. Who's handling this?
Good evening. I think the former administrator put this actually on this agenda, but this is what we've worked on and wanted to get approval from Levy Court. We've added an assessment tab, taxable assessment, so that constituents can compare their property to others, where I think you were, Levy Court, I believe it was Commissioner Squeeny that said, you get calls and, my property is the same exact as another property. Why is it that they're being taxed so much more? Whatever. On this tab, you'll see we're showing the appraised land and the appraised improvements on the upper left of that tab. In the center, there's the agricultural land program, which is their exemptions, farmland exemptions for land, assessed land, assessed improvements. On the right is if this property was in a tax abatement program. The one that we actually had questions on was this exemption below the tax abatement. That is a combination of any personal exemptions that are available on that property. In the past, we have chosen not to show specifically elderly exemption or handicap exemption or veteran. And that's what we wanted to make sure was okay with Levy Court, to say, do we combine them all into one, like personal exemption? You can change the wording to anything you like. Or do we separate it out and say they have a $50,000 senior credit or senior tax exemption, veteran handicap? The other 100% exemption, that's their property exemptions, mostly exempts like buildings and state buildings and all the churches and cemeteries and all that. That's the one. And you see your totals at the bottom. Now, the tax credits, they're different from assessment credits or assessment exemptions. They are found on the billing tab, and they've always been there. But we can make them clearer, but again, you would be into showing senior credits or veteran disabled credits that we give for school tax, and the county also has a veteran credit. And it's just, there's a little exposure there. There were 2 different frames of thought. The former commissioner thought it was okay. You sign up for this program. It can be FOIA'd. I kind of lean towards not exposing them if we don't have to. You can see that there's a discount. I don't know that you need to see the actual reason. If you want to FOIA it, you can. But I don't know that it's necessary to just put out there on Pride where everybody looks. But it's entirely up to you.
Commissioner Angel.
Thank you, Donna. Personally, I'd like to be able to see what's on there if they're getting a tax credit. So they'll know they're getting it, because otherwise we're going to get the call still. Did we get our credit? Did we get our tax?
Can you
so
go to the billing?
But if it's possible that their veteran status or handicap or the $50,000, whatever, it's on that document so they can see it.
Okay.
And that was the catch-22, because you can see it both ways. because we had many, many calls this year. Did I have my exemption? You know, and there's nowhere to see it. And so, especially because there were so many properties prior to this that if they had the exemption, they didn't have to pay any tax, but then with the new assessed value, now they have the tax. And so a lot of you guys got those same calls, and there was no way you could go on here. So that's why we wanted to make sure to get your buy-in, because it could be a catch-22.
On that specific example, there are no senior credits.
This one does not have one. This was showing a farmland credit. It's, you probably know an account off the top of your head that's the senior account.
Senior account, me.
Okay.
So can we look up a specific one that I'll give you the approval to look at?
Just
the
look
name
up
for
me.
Mark?
It's
my mom.
under Whistlefield Way, under my name, yeah. I don't know my number. I know
Close
the farm
enough.
number. It's 19016, but I don't know this
I
one.
guarantee she's not
Mine?
watching me tonight. Not talking to me right now. Yeah, I know.
No, the farm is, but I want the one under me. Well, I got several things out there, but the second one, yeah. That's the senior credit, yeah.
That's a senior credit. We can add a key on there, so all the codes, because that little block there comes directly from our iSeries, and it's called an iframe, but that's a program that's actually running on our iSeries and just displays on the screen. So I can't change anything in that block because that's a direct program call, but I can add a key if you'd like a key that says, at the bottom or in there somewhere on that page that says SC is a senior credit.
We have VC, and then we have VSC.
Can they have multiple credits there on that history?
Can you have multiple? No.
You only have one.
You can have senior tax credit, you can have veterans, or you can have multiple because you'd have a veteran school
Yes.
credit and a veteran county credit. So that would be,
Would they show up separately
yes.
if there were multiple
Yes,
credits?
they'd each
for
have their
one?
own line as a credit.
Okay.
So Susan, when I see the senior credit here, the $500, that's the maximum you get on like the school tax?
Yes.
Correct? Okay, thank you.
It's 50% or a max of 500.
50% of the
School
value.
tax or a max of
School tax
500
or a max of
for
500.
the senior
Okay.
tax credit.
So go back to the taxable assessment screen then. So that SC is reflected there in the,
No,
See, you can't be on this screen because this is about value.
this is just assessment.
This is assessed value, so you have to show credits on the bills, and you can't show credits here because it doesn't tie in the same way.
so the one I'm
And it
looking
comes
at
from two
has,
separate systems.
the one I'm looking at has total exemptions $50,000.
Yeah, that other one did.
Mine does. No, I mean, not mine, Peer personally, the one you guys don't want me to look at because my mom's not talking to me right now, but the total exemptions has $50,000 in it, and she does have a senior credit.
She got both. You can have
You
both
can
of
have
those.
both.
You
They
can
just
have an
aren't shown on
exemption and a senior credit. The first thing that is applied is the exemption of 50,000, so your value is reduced by that amount.
Actually did work.
And then the senior credit gets applied to the difference, to the net
And the
balance.
senior
from
credit
that.
is, when you fill out the state form, the
Yes.
50,000 is on the county side, correct?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
Yes.
So there is one credit, though, you have to apply for every year, correct?
The elderly and handicap exemption, you have, because it's income
Can there be an
based.
asterisk added to that they have to remind them they have to apply every year by a certain time frame?
That's a
Well, we
disability.
have a section for that, there's a section on the website with the application, and it tells you to do that every year and stuff. Plus, the people that have already had it, we send it to them automatically in January.
I think it would be a lot simpler if they were individually broke out. I think for for the people looking at the bills as well as for the government body, levy court commissioners, when they get the calls. I mean, how many times did I talk to you and say, Susan, is this in there? Is this in
Right.
there? And the homeowner didn't know. They're looking at the bill. They see some kind of credit, but they have no idea what it even means.
Okay.
So I think
So
individually.
you want a key to explain what the credit is, and then you want this information out there?
I think it
for
would be
both.
better. That'd be my opinion.
Okay.
It'll help explain it a lot better. So let me ask one other question while we're on this topic. Can you go to the billing tab, Mark or Donna? Can you go to the billing tab?
Oh, yes, sorry.
Susan probably doesn't pay anything. Nope, she doesn't.
She doesn't pay her taxes.
No, I'm not going to call you out. So here's my question. Because in the last 2 years, and possibly going forward in future years, we're looking at regular increases to sewer, can we break out the sewer billing to have a sewer billing history like we have with the tax billing history?
We have looked into that. The programs are in New World that run sewer.
For right now, right?
Yes, for now. And they don't have an easy screen that we can pluck out like we can in our tax billing
Right.
software that we have now on the iSeries. Both are on the iSeries, the New World and our tax billing. 1 year had like 16 records. And it's, we're trying to think of different ways we could pull out of that file where you have a bill and a payment and a bill and a payment. And 1 year took up 16 lines. It's like, how many years do we want to go back? We needed more information about how you wanted that to see, but there isn't a clean and concise presentation.
So,
for
but
sewer.
we're moving away from New World, right?
We are.
Yes.
In the new system, will we be able to easily extract that data and put it in that billing history format?
We can make it a requirement.
Okay.
My suggestion.
That's all I ask.
My suggestion would be to create a tab called sewer billing. And that would make it cleaner.
Okay, I'm okay with that. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Donna or Susan?
So basically for this, we'll move forward with, is that the majority of you want us to move forward with those tabs like that?
So we.
To break these out.
Sorry?
We'll break out this exemption into all the individual pieces. And do you want
They want a key for
a
the
key
credits.
here?
Yes.
Okay.
So we need to take a consensus on this. 6 up, 1 absent. Okay.
I have a question. Do you want to review it, see it before it's done, or just we'll make those changes and push it out online so people can start seeing it?
Do you want us to review it, see it before it's done?
I think it
No, I
can be
don't
done
think so. I
in-house.
think- yeah.
I think we can.
I'd say just
Yeah.
roll out.
Go.
Roll out with it.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, yes.
We'll just let
Get
you
it
know
done.
when it is done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So, sounding camera. Who's on that one? I don't have the page on this. Mark?
Yes, sir.
You're up on sound and camera in the caucus room and our room, I guess, too, because I think we are still working with a fixated old system, even though it's new.
Okay, so I guess tonight what we're trying to do is really get an understanding of what it is the levy court is looking to improve or enhance. Just a brief history. The system is about 5 years old right now. It's hard to believe that we've completed this right at the end of 2019 before COVID hit. And the system is on a 10-year cycle, life cycle. So we're about halfway through that process at this point. We've upgraded 220, 221, and this room right after COVID just to provide better services for virtual attendance to the meetings. The room that was not improved was the caucus room. So we are aware that the sound quality in the caucus room isn't as good as the other rooms. But bear in mind, that room really isn't a conference room, it's a boardroom. So when we installed the camera system in there, it was really to, we anticipated at some point the levy court may need a bridge call with the state. So it's not as robust as the other rooms. So it could use an improvement, but it really wasn't designed to be used as a broadcast room like this room is. And so we can certainly look into getting some quotes for enhancements to that room, but we would need to understand exactly how you would like that room to be utilized going forward.
So this probably started because of me. The last couple times I've had to call in from outside, and we were in the caucus room for workshops. I have a very, very tough time. I had to go under headphones and be focused on the screen when people were talking, because I couldn't even tell who was asking questions and who was talking in there. When we were out here a few years ago, those cameras used to jump around and look at the section of the dais of the people who were talking. It doesn't do that anymore. It doesn't swing around and look at the people that are up at the podiums either. So sometimes you lose that, but at least the sound is a little better, and I can understand who's talking, at least on the dais. And you can't do that in the caucus room. Here's what I would ask. For the caucus room, can we talk to Dina Vendetti from the Central Delaware Chamber of Commerce and look at the system that they have for their board meetings? They have 2 canisters that sit in the middle of the room that sit on a 360-degree swivel and look right at the person that's talking, and that person goes on the screen when they present. And it works great. It works really well. So if that's something we could look at for the caucus room, but hopefully we get away from using the caucus room as a workshop and get back out to using chambers anyway.
That system you're talking about, Kent Conservation District has the exact same system, and it works really well. And yeah, you listening in the past couple of times, that really brought it to a head. But over the past year, 2 years, I've had several complaints from people that couldn't come, but they wanted to listen in on different topics. And their complaint to me was they couldn't hear. And and I hate to take those phone calls and say, well, we got a better system in the other room, this system that we use in the caucus room. And every time they'll say, why don't you use the other room? So, I hate to be in a position where we can do better with what we've got than to do what we're doing with what we've got. So I put this on the agenda tonight because I wanted to get some information from Mark as to what it would take to upgrade the caucus room. And until we get those upgrades, have our workshops out here. I mean, you can dress down if you want to at a workshop. You don't have to wear a tie in here. If it's billed as a workshop, that's what it is. But I hate to be in a position, like I said, to not be able to give the public what they want if we've got it. So that's why I asked Mark to talk about this tonight.
I have a question, Mr. President. Has anybody else had a problem with the voice hearing in there? Because I know when I was on it, I didn't have any problems with it. It's been a few months back.
No, I didn't have no problem a couple of weeks ago when I called in from work.
You didn't have any problems with it.
I'm talking people that have called me that have tried. So those are other people.
And Mr. President, I believe that was my question, wasn't it? Yeah, I did. Okay.
I'd already answered that earlier. Okay. I mentioned earlier that I talked to other people that contacted me that had tried to. Okay, sorry. So, what do you want to do? Leave it up to you all. I mean,
I'm in favor.
You don't like my solution to it, so I'll leave it up to you. Do we give the people the best we've got, or do we give them what we're giving them?
I say upgrade the caucus room, keep the workshops in there. I like them.
Yeah, I'd only agree to spend money on this if it puts the workshops back in the caucus room. Because playing musical podiums tonight didn't really work well. Sometimes you can hear, sometimes you can't. And I think that it's a better forum when we're talking about informal things. So that's my point.
I agree. I'm for it if we're going to have the workshops back in the caucus room.
Agreed.
Okay. The other issue, I got to tell you, last week I was kind of embarrassed when the kids came in from the FFA, and they had to huddle in the corners because we didn't have enough chairs, and because all the other chairs were taken, and we didn't even have enough room to bring chairs in. If we wanted to, we were able to. So my question to you is, if we have a workshop that requires a lot of people to come in like that, to have a workshop in here.
Yeah, which we would know that in advance because, I mean, they generally would be putting in for the request for the funding and stuff ahead of time anyway.
Yeah, we moved out here that night. Verona Woods was in here. I mean, there are exceptions to the rule. Yeah, we got a lot of people, but, you know, how often does that happen?
Mr. President?
Mark?
Just one more point that I would like the Levy Court to consider. This room allows us to stream via YouTube and to stream via WebEx. The caucus room currently does not allow us to stream via YouTube. So in the process of improving that room, would you all like the capability to still provide workshops via YouTube?
So, Mark, can you give us a price, get us some prices on these things that would take to improve that room and be able to bring it up to speed for YouTube? And so come back to us and give us those prices, and then we'll have a better idea of what to do or where we want to spend money.
Sure, we can take a look at that and bring that back to you as soon as possible.
So how long do you think that would take you to get that information?
I tried to reach out to our integrator this week. We're trying to get on his schedule by next week. So I would like a minimum of 3 weeks, if that's possible, just because of their schedule. I don't know when the engineer will be available, because what needs to happen is they would need to figure out how to integrate any new pieces of equipment into our system.
Okay, so the first meeting of November, yeah, this is October, isn't it? November. We'll shoot for the first week in November.
Okay, I think we can do that.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, we got a path forward on that. ARPA. I'm not sure why this was on here, so I'll have to defer to someone else.
I can speak to this. Kevin earlier sent an updated spreadsheet of all of the ARPA projects and where we are. And Susan and I had conversations with one of our ARPA recipients who had until yesterday close of business to let us know if his 501c3 status was put back into place. As of yesterday, close of business, he did not have any paperwork confirming that he has his 501c3 status.
Does he have any paperwork that shows that he applied for it?
He did not provide us with any paperwork. He said he sent the IRS certified mail with his application to fix that status, but we haven't seen anything. He also said all the funds have been encumbered, but we haven't seen any contracts or any plans.
Yeah, we have nothing, so.
Susan?
We had, Lauren covered it, we have not received anything else. He just said he certified mailed the documents required by the IRS, so.
So he applied for this funding without having the proper documentation, is what I'm hearing?
He was a 501c3, he was in 2021. And then on May 12th of 2024, but they didn't post it, May of 2024, but they didn't post it until August 12th, that it had been revoked because of some missing paperwork. And he has said it is a mistake, and he was going to clarify it with them, with the IRS. So he would need to clear it up with the IRS. And that's what we were waiting on that, so.
Well, I know in our last leadership meeting, I'd asked the former county administrator to put this on the agenda because I'd asked for, have a backup plan in case this happened. So it's happened, so what do we do?
Well,
I mean, it's past September 30th.
It is. We're
And
running
that
out
might be
of time. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
That might be a question for the county attorney because we've already given him the check and he said it's already encumbered, and we did let him know that he would have to return the funds to us.
He'd have to refund the money?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd have to look at the paper trail. I know very little about this, but I'm happy to look at it.
Okay.
Okay, we'll send you the information.
Now, there's, time is a factor here too, right?
Yes.
So when does he have to have the money encumbered by?
Well, that money has to be encumbered by December.
The end of December?
Yes.
Well, my understanding is, he's saying he's got it encumbered.
But he has not showed us anything. In his agreement that he signed when he received the money in June, he had to.
So just to be clear, we cut him the check, and when we cut him the check, he was still good.
That's
and
correct.
After he cut the check, the IRS took his 501(c)(3) away after we had given him the check.
That's correct. Well, they revoked it, waiting for, because of the no taxes being filed. So, and he says that, it was a mistake, and so
When did we find out about it? When we asked for the money back, or?
In August, we found out about it.
So he knew about this in June and July and didn't tell us?
I don't know that he knew. I'm not sure how the IRS operates with that. The IRS didn't post it on their website until August. We checked different things, statuses of different, depending on who the vendor is and depending on the conditions of the, money that was given. So, like when it's CCI money, which is construction money, we have to check all the contractors and make sure they're good under SAM.gov and things like that. There's just certain conditions that we have to stay on top of, and the 501c3 is one of them.
So don't we just ask for the money back? I mean, he's got to give it back. We gave a date of September 30th. It's October 1st. He needs to give the money back if he's not good, because we got to spend that money somewhere else or we're going to lose it.
Agreed.
Agree.
Well, first, I would make sure we get Craig's blessing on that.
Well, if he's out of compliance, so he's got the money wrongfully.
Evidently, I'd like to confirm that.
So can we get Craig to work on this and confirm it and confirm that he doesn't have the status that he needs? And then would this be something that you would address Craig through a letter from your office as a representative of Levy Court, or how would that be handled?
Yeah, that's a possibility, a probability even, yeah.
So why don't we bring this up at next meeting? By then, Craig will have been able to do some homework. And,
Oh, I don't know about that. My daughter gets married on Saturday, so I'm not doing much until next week.
But you're going to do a lot.
Non-law related.
I miss what you said. My ears are clogged up too. So we won't be ready next week to address.
Very, very unlikely. But it does beg the question. I mean, we had ARPA lawyers, and I know that ship has sailed, and we don't have a contract with them, but the whole Tetra Tech group might be some outreach as well. But I think we should start with letting me take a look at this. As I mentioned a moment ago, I know almost nothing about it.
So why don't we do that? And Susan, can you reach out to Tetra Tech?
Sure, I will.
So, and this is not, because I don't know that much about it, but did we do this with everybody when we gave everybody the full lump sum of their money and then they just got report back to us how they spent it?
It depended. His was not what we call SLURF funds. His was revenue loss funds. So the revenue loss funds were given in advance, and then you just had to show us after the fact what you used it for. The SLURF funds were given, like for construction, they're not given in advance, they're given as you progress along. So there's just different rules out here. So.
Anything else, or is that a path forward? Sounds like it's a path forward. And Susan, I think it'd be important to contact Tetra Tech or Susan or Lauren, one of you. And
Yeah, I'll contact Tetra Tech, but Lauren and I will work on it, just because I know the contacts for Tetra Tech.
And give us an update next week.
I'm sorry?
Give us an update next week.
Okay, sure.
In the meantime, Craig will maybe have an opportunity to.
Well, at least we'll know some options, and then by the 15th, we should have a definite answer.
Shouldn't we get something out immediately and tell him not to spend a dime of that money? Because all I can see is we get up to him next week, he said, well, I spent this and I spent that, which inevitably he has to pay us back, but I think we better said something and say, buddy, you better not spend a penny.
Well, we sent the email and told him that right now he wasn't eligible for the funds based on.
Well, yeah, and I know how he is. He probably said, well, I already spent this and that and that.
Right.
Something needs to be said to, hey, stop spending, and you're going to be responsible for any money that you have spent.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. I think that's everything on the workshop for this evening. We'll move to the caucus room for the executive session.